Do you enjoy
There
the?
you go.
I once had this thing. I describe it as like the microphone effect. Essentially, when I would sit behind the microphone, the moment I saw it in front of my mouth, I would sort of switch into a different character. It almost feels like you're escaping the real world and you're entering this weird.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. 100%. Like it's I've been watching your videos uh on YouTube about, creating characters. Like it's the Jim Carrey theory, if
Hmm.
you've like been watching what he's going through. It's like, who am I really? Like, it's that'd be a good topic of conversation right there.
Yeah. I mean, Jim Carrey's got that. Wasn't it that one show he showed up to and he was like, "Oh, I'm just here because I wanted to find the most meaningless place to be," and I just showed
Yeah,
up and like the interviewer is really confused. She's like, "Why? What's he
yeah.
saying
Oh,
this?"
Jim Carrey's crazy, but actually he's the most not crazy person.
Yeah, yeah,
It's just unfortunately now his level of self-aware has just exceeded most people who will ever get to that stage. It's the same with most sort of like intelligent beings that I think they just their their thoughts go further out than their own realm, and then it just becomes a horrendous place to be. Yeah, especially if you're like cameras shoved in your face all the time and you're seeing yourself, broadcast to hundreds of millions of people. Yeah,
yeah.
and you're like, shit, like I I did this uh Ace Ventura movie, and now the past 20 years has been, putting on this character until I have no idea who the fuck I'm actually supposed to be now. Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy, dude. I
It's
think about it
it's
quite a lot.
it is the curse of actors. I mean, like the I don't even know his name, just Stifler. Like he's always going to be Stifler. It's
Yeah. You get typecast,
yeah.
um, and then a bit of Stifler probably like overlapped into his like real life persona.
Hmm.
So it's tough, dude.
Yeah, I would
Tough,
assume that
tough.
most of the roles he's ever going to get are going to be sort of in that direction. Like you have certain actors that always play bad guys, and it's got to be.
Yeah. What's his name that plays Anton Chigurh in No Country for Old Men?
Oh, the I was going to say Anthony Bourdain for a second. It's got a similar name. Um, God,
I'm gonna have to Google it
'cause
because I
it's
don't know off the
similar
top of
to
my head.
Anthony Bourdain, but it's not. It's no, no. The title. I mean, the guy's name was Shigur in the movie,
Yeah,
and he's
God,
he's
what was
married
his name?
to Penelope Cruz. What's his name?
Javier
Ah,
Bardem.
yes, Javier Bardem. The guy. Well, that movie is spectacular. I mean, No Country for Old Men
Oh, it's
really is.
brilliant, dude. There's like very minimal dialogue. Yeah, it's just it's one of the movies of all time,
Mm,
as the kids say now.
yeah. I've already started, by the way, just because I just felt we got into the groove and I want it to be a bit more spontaneous. I hate the forceful aspect of it, because like you talk to a person
Yeah,
like, yeah, we're going to start at this and this hour. It's like, no, you just let it flow, let it be, and it makes it way
I get
easier.
you. I get you.
Yeah, man. Now I've got that image in my head from the No Country for Old Men. The standstill scene with the canister of air and
Oh
the
yeah, what is it they call it? The bolt gun
yeah.
for cattle and pigs and stuff. Yeah,
Jesus,
yeah.
it's
It's really really clever writing. Yeah, he's a really terrifying character. Like
mhm.
I've met killers in real life, and they're not dissimilar. Like these people are just
Wait,
you've got
wait, yeah,
no
wait. You,
idea.
you've met killers in real life.
Yeah,
I'm gonna have to ask a bit more about that. So I've actually never thought about it because I don't think I've ever. Actually, no, that's not true. I did meet a killer. I'll tell you the story afterwards, but I, I want to hear it from you first.
yeah. Like as well, soldiers, and there's differences definitely between your general sort of infantrymen
Hmm.
who are like, they still experience life kind of similar to ours. You know, when they're doing what they're doing, but then you've got the guys who like it's all they can really think about, right? And when they walk in the room, it's like almost like their life's getting sucked out, and everything's so direct to the point where they get annoyed when there's like small talk or something in their way. They're already like 5 steps ahead, you know. They've looked at the fire escapes and who's a threat to them. Is so strange being around them. But as one of my friends explained, the guy who I was with, I won't name anybody, of course. We're at a buffet, and there's just this really big dude, just steely eyed, looks at you that way, where it's like they're not looking at you or through you. They're like reading you on a level that I don't think they understand themselves to, you know? And what they're explaining is when they get in a fight and, you know, everything's kicking off, it's them they hand the ammunition to, you know? They're not the ones doing the killing, it's that guy. That sort of thing. Yeah. So it's really weird. Very similar to Anton Chigurh. Don't know if it's like a mental state they've put themselves in to cope, or it's just how they are. You know,
Yeah.
like that's just the way that the genetic material brought them up to be. Like, hey, I you know, I kill people for a living. Like that's just it's crazy. Where do you put those people in society, right?
Yeah, it's
Prison, mental ward, war is your three answers, really.
basically, yeah.
Yeah, terrifying. It's just a different story because you get killers who are like, you know, your gangster types,
Hmm.
and they like glow about it like it's an ego thing, but to these guys it's not. And that's really scary. Like hell mend you if you inconvenience them in some way. Yeah.
Yeah,
Ugh. Ugh.
because the only guy that I met was actually a co-worker for 3 days, I think, and it was the weirdest thing ever. I was working in this burger joint essentially, and a new guy came in, you know, and he looked very philosophical. He sort of, you know, had like longer hair, a little bit, you know, already in the grey, and he had some weird energy about him for sure, because the way he would observe the work we were doing was like he was standing behind you, just, you know, overlooking your
Yeah.
shoulder, just being creepy. But then, you know, the first day when we finished, we went to go sit outside. We have a pint of beer. We're chatting, and I'm like, this guy is really fun to talk to. I don't know why, but it was something about him made the discussion just flow. And we do it the first day and we get pissed drunk, and we do it the second day and we get pissed drunk, and the third day we're sitting there having this conversation, and he was taking it into a different direction. I was feeling a little bit confused. First, he was really talking about women, and then he was talking about like houses, and then he said like, I don't even need this job technically, and I was like really confused by all it. And I think he was asking me what my boss thought of him, you know, sort of like getting behind the backbone of the company and figure out if there was like if he was gonna stay or not, if we liked him. And I was honest to him because he looked like an honest person. Turns out I think he might be a bit of a pathological liar, but I said, look, you know, my boss sort of, you know, Googled you, and he found some dude who was arrested on charges of I think drugs or whatever, right? And before I could finish the sentence, he was like, yeah, you know, I have this unlucky situation where, you know, there's somebody with the same name that you know, sold some drugs, but I killed somebody. And he just says it like that, like completely, you know, like it's nothing. And I'm standing, you know, I take a sip, and I look at him, and I'm like, I'm still processing. I'm like, wait, you what? He's like, yeah, you know, I just killed somebody. Like, it was self-defense. And he starts elaborating a little bit more, and it was supposedly like a woman he was dating. He got into an argument with, and he was a bit drunk, and then she supposedly tried to stab him, and he stabbed her back. And it was one of those cases where, you know, you do some research, and it's like the woman was stabbed in the back like 5-7 times, which doesn't sound like self-defense to me, but obviously I wasn't there.
No, definitely not. Yeah.
And after that, he was like, you know, do you want to go to this other bar and, you know, have a drink there? And I was like, yeah, I'm kind of gonna go home, you know, I'm not not feeling that comfortable hanging out with you anymore. But it's weird because I still
did he though?
Hmm?
Did he do that?
He
Is
did,
there
yeah.
any way to
Yeah,
confirm it?
he
He
did.
did, yeah.
Because there was, when they were talking about his former jobs, he said that
Right.
he worked in a really big kitchen for like 1,000 people, which was the prison cafeteria, which completely makes sense, right? And he sold it in a very, very smart way. But I don't know how many years he did. But to me, something creeped me out about him. Even though I think I'd still love to sit down and have a conversation. I think that part of him was really interesting. But I can't look past and because he said it. And I kept thinking, what if I get into an argument with him? I say something bad. Next thing you know, you could be the one getting stabbed in the back. So I sort of just distance myself from him.
I've got a good analogy of the characters that I've met. Is there's a video online of a guy who takes a wolf to a dog park,
Oh my God.
and the dogs in the dog park just know, right?
Yeah.
It's like holy shit, that's a wolf, right?
Mhm.
And these guys I'm talking about are just similar, right? The guy I was talking about in the buffet is a bit of an exemption because he is a big guy, huge
Mhm.
sausage fingers, like muscles on the side of their head, and that's obviously like a physical trait, right? But I'm not talking about the physical trait. I'm talking about the ambience of the entire room changing. It's like, hey, that guy just walked in and I feel uneasy.
Mhm.
So it's like kind of similar to like the dog seeing a wolf,
Yeah.
walking in a dog park. Like, yeah, like that guy is a person you should not be in the room with. It's time to leave now,
Yeah.
like it's crazy.
Uh,
There's people who give off auras, but that type of aura is pretty scary.
yeah. I mean, because the first thing I noticed was with some people, you get that. But this is more, I think, of a work environment thing where there's that one coworker that when he or she enters the room or the business or the office, like everybody around you just goes, this motherfucker again. But that's a different kind of aura. I think that's just being
That's
a dick, right?
yeah,
But the aura that you're talking about is this. There's something eerie about these people. Like they just like
yeah,
if you
just
were left
really
in the room with them,
unsettling.
you'd be like, I need to get out of here by all means
Yeah,
necessary.
exactly that.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's just some instinct about you that's just like, yeah,
Mhm.
that's not right. And I've gone through my whole life without having that. This must be like, 7, 8 years ago now, like in my previous job. And you're just like, yeah, that this is the first time I've felt this way, like with somebody here. It's just like this is a unique experience and like actually scary.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. And like, having to ask my other friend, who's they're in the same regiment, and even they're like, yeah, that's such and such. Just
Just done.
have to accept it, Yeah, this
Oh,
is the guy who keeps us alive, when terrible things happen. Yeah, it's nutty.
it's scary to think. I mean, but there are crazy people roaming the world, so you have to
Yeah,
like. Also, like some women will have just those like legit crazy eyes, and you can tell it from a mile away. And you see a friend of yours, like he's talking to her and he's flirting, and you're just like, dude, just don't, just get out of there, like run.
yeah,
Oh.
yeah. It's weird. You have instincts for things, right?
Yeah.
Whether you know it or not,
Uh,
it's pretty cool thing. But it's hard to understand unless you're like Jordan Peterson times a
mhm.
hundred.
I mean, I think ultimately your gut will tell you. Your gut really tells you so much about
Yeah.
things, but we
Yep.
often don't listen to it. We sort of disregard it, and we try to think with, one of our two heads or our heart or whatever, and then we get into serious trouble. And you
Yep.
think, oh, why didn't I just go with the gut?
I have this problem now with impulses where I'm like, I know this is a stupid idea, but also cool stories to tell, right? Doing the wrong thing. Yeah, I've done it all my life basically. It's starting to slow down now, but it's plenty of stories. So some people are like, oh, that's bullshit, like there's no way you've done that. And I'm like, yeah, well, I did.
No, I think those are the stories that like they make you interesting. I had a friend the other day who he was like, I'm gonna go hitchhike to Poland and back. And it was a very simple trip. 2 or 3 days that it took him,
Yeah,
but the amount of story value that you get from that, you know, I think it outweighs the perhaps the suffering or those moments where he was on the you know, gas station waiting for some trucker who's going to pick him up, you know, hoping he's not going to get chopped up into bits and thrown into a trash bag.
Yeah.
Or worse.
Because worse can't happen, and that's the scary part about that. Yeah. Yeah, some people don't have those inhibitors, you know, to do that, and then you've got people like your friend who maybe will keep doing that and eventually get too comfortable, you know. But like you said, they it makes for good stories. Like that's, some people are just a bit more extreme than others. People get too comfortable sitting down, you know, at their computers playing games, and they forget that, you know, 100 years ago, 200 years ago, not that long ago, this was normal behavior, right?
Yeah.
It's just how it's the way the world was.
I think we're missing some of that, like, I want to say idiotic spontaneity, where it's just like, I just want to go and do something, you know?
Yeah.
Because I remember I was driving back home from Vienna on Monday, actually, and I was thinking, God, wouldn't it be nice to, like, say, every year I'll visit one or two capitals where I haven't been yet, just to see what the world's like there, and then compare it, and then you can also wrap your head around, where do you actually want to live? You know, is it where you are currently living? Is it maybe some other country, maybe a different town, maybe a different culture, ethnicities, you know? Because if you just sit here and stay here, then I think you're wasting the opportunity, because we do have this wonderful planet and all the transport options which weren't available back then, you know.
Yeah.
Because I mean, today hitchhiking,
more freedom than we ever had, right?
Yeah.
Let's be honest. I think that the ideal kind of lifestyle for like a young person would be like, if you had the money, which most people don't now, right? Is to have a small place where it's kind of your base of operations, you know, and you can be like, right, okay, at any time I can come back to this place and, you know, recuperate myself and decide what I'm going to do next. You know, I couldn't just take a backpack and go, hey, I'm going to go around the world, and just be like, I can make enough income and, you know, explore the planet. But if you have somewhere to go, right, okay, I run out of funds now, let's come back to, you know, where I am now or where you are now, and be like, right, okay, let's recuperate funds and decide what I'm going to do next. That's the way most people should be, really, like, in this day and age. But it is hard to do. Like, it is hard to do, to own a property and explore at the same time.
Yeah. But I mean, there's also this, you know, influx of, you know, constantly just investing in this, and I feel like we often forget about investing in ourselves, where we feel like, you know, I'll talk to people and they'll say, you know, I'll skimp out on a high quality meal because I want to save some money, but in doing that, they're actually not investing in themselves, which, you know, at the end of the day, you only have one body, you're only going to live, you know, those 80 years or so. So wouldn't it be in your, you know, best interest to first take care of the temple, as they call it, and then everything else will follow?
Yeah, you're what is it? Someone said something that brought me to, you basically have a meat mech suit, right? Yeah. Your brain is just a pilot of this weird, like, honestly, we're so bizarre. Like, do you know, this always happens on every podcast or every stream. Like, if you just look at yourself and you think, oh, cool, you know, we're designed really well, and but you look at your scrotum and you're just like, what the fuck is that? And you're reminded that you're just a sack of meat. Like, your whole body is just this weird machine, like, made out of giblets. So yeah, that it always wraps around to, you know, the scrotum for me. It reminds me that.
Is that something that you do in public? Like, you'll sit somewhere on a bench and people just think, oh, everybody's just a giant walking scrotum.
like, you know, men have scrotums and females have weird labias, and that's where you kind of like start, right? You're just like what is this? Like, what am I living in? What a weird fucking construct to just be strutting about with a scrotum between your legs. I'm jealous of anyone who doesn't have one and can still function, because it's the weirdest thing to have attached between your legs. Hideous. I mean, and it gets worse as years goes on too. It doesn't get better. You know, like, yeah, you gotta look after it. And the rest of your body's no different. the most
Oh,
vulnerable part of you, right?
I mean, realistically speaking, yeah. And the pain of getting smashed in the ball sack is something very unique. And I usually,
Why?
I don't know.
Why is it like that?
I think it's
Hey,
for
oh yeah,
I think it's for curing temporal depression. Like, because I said to myself, I said every time, because you have so many people nowadays that are just feeling depressed in the moment, and then they'll come
yeah.
to you and they'll whine about their problems. I keep thinking like, I just want to smack you in the balls as hard as I can, because for the next 15 minutes you're gonna have zero depression. You're just gonna be in misery because
You
your
won't be
balls,
thinking of anything
you
else. Yeah.
know, like
Yeah, why did it? I don't understand. Like, is it just like a? Is it by design that hey, you're hitting the fucking testicles, and then you're just it's the most excruciating pain because it doesn't just hurt your balls. It hurts your back.
yeah,
Like it hurts your internal organs. You feel sick. Like it is crazy. Like your eyes water. My nose goes runny too. Like you dry gag. It is just why? Why
it,
does it need to be that painful?
it is.
It's
I mean,
insane.
have you seen those clips of like a lion biting a an antelope or a hippo in the ball sack? And I just can't help but feel like how horrible has the pain, and to know
Yeah,
you're
like
probably also going to die in the next couple of minutes.
yeah, you just bleed to death from it because it's just a sack of skin hanging off. It's very vascular, and that's why that's why I brought it up, right? Like it's the most vulnerable part of you. It's the most hideous looking part of most people. Um, it's it's just a weird thing. It's like a constant reminder that you're just a weird blob of meat and blood and bones. It's just bizarre.
Yeah, and I think that what is statistical chance of us existing is close to zero. So essentially, all of us
It,
are.
it basically it may as well be zero, right?
Yeah,
May as well be zero. Yes. You can't really think about that sort of thing because uh, your brain just isn't equipped to understand the mathematics
yeah.
of that, right? It's like you being here is impossible.
Mm.
Somehow you are, right? Your personality or whoever you are exists at all.
But I think this exact like realization makes life so much more beautiful. Like it really makes me want to live it out to its fullest, as opposed to, it's how they say every obstacle is actually an opportunity disguising itself. It's like
Yeah.
because we constantly have these things, and then we feel like, oh, but I wish I had that, but I wish I was like this, but I wish my scrotum wasn't like that. It's like reality is you should be happy you have a scrotum to go with.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, it's there, right? And it's annoying to have, but it existed there for a reason, for the same reason that the rest of you's here.
yeah.
I'm not dissing the scrotum. My gamer handle is OddBawz for a reason. Like it is it is there and it's here to stay, hopefully, for the rest of my existence. Um, as ugly as it is, and as inconvenient as it can be at times. Yeah. Ballsack, meaning of life, is your scrotum.
Yeah. I mean, if you take anything away from this podcast, it's the scrotum talk.
Just remember your scrotum or your genitals, whichever genitals you were born with or want to have. Yeah, yeah, cool. And don't think females are getting away with it too, because the vulva labia is hideous. Also, and in an erotic aroused situation, that's different. But if you're just looking at one, what the fuck is that?
I think by itself, we're both
Yeah,
sexes are massively disgusting in their own way. Yeah,
what is that? Yeah.
makes you wonder what aliens are actually going to look like once we do figure
Yeah,
out.
will they look any different from humans? Like, really? Are we? Do we all take a humanoid form?
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah, that'd be interesting to see. Hopefully, in my lifetime.
Yeah,
We're talking like billions of years, right? But anyway, yeah. Will they just be a blob?
I mean they'll have their own
Will they have?
scrotum of choice, I guess.
Yeah, because the reproductive organ thing is part of the whole like evolution, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe they'll look different but have the same ball sack.
Oh my god, maybe they'll copy it from.
Yeah.
You know what? Speaking of scrotums and ball sacks, I have to touch up on Gaijin here because
Right.
they're my favourite scrotum of choice. Generally speaking, on the podcast, I don't talk about War Thunder much or the game creation, but obviously I have to touch onto it because you're a content creator. You
Yeah.
operated in the same sphere as I did. So at the moment, you still play the game. Obviously, you do. Why do you do? What do you find enjoyable?
So I haven't for the past 3-4 weeks now.
Hmm.
I've just been, I've been sad and I just haven't been like creatively in the right space. But when I do play War Thunder, it is for a creative outlet. So it's not the type of game that I would play to have fun anymore. Used to be, and I don't know whether that's in part of how the game is, or um, whether I'm just burnt out on it specifically. But a lot of people might take this away as, oh, you don't enjoy the game and you're just making videos for whatever reason. But I do like the process of telling stories through the means of War Thunder. And I really enjoy it. I obviously do have like, hundreds of videos on it now. But yeah, like that is is a way for me to like, get an outlet to feed the beast in me that likes to make stuff,
Hmm.
if you will. And it's easy to do because you've got, all these different vehicles all laid out. You can go, right, I'm gonna pick that one on the screen right there, and I'm gonna make a story about this thing.
Yeah.
It's pretty simple. It's inexpensive for me, which is a plus. And it's also inexpensive, like as a catalyst, pick something to go, hey, oh, here's the Panther G. Let's do something on this guy. So yeah, and then the expensive part is the time that's invested in doing it, and it makes me feel good when I get a video out.
Hmm.
It's a happy time.
Yeah, I fully
But the
understand
game,
you.
the game itself, is a absolute disaster. Yeah.
But I mean, they're now, from what I've heard, they've made a lot of promises to, correct the game over the course of the next 6 months or so. Do you think there's
Yeah.
any truth to that? Is it more of this, band-aiding, or is it empty promises?
So, um, let's address the Gaijin fixing things for a start, right? The economy, etc. They broke it in the first place, and it seemed like a deliberate move, a cash grab to kind of squeeze the players as much as they could before they pushed back, right? It's quite a common business tactic. Even, like let's take Starbucks for example, right? When I was growing up, Starbucks coffee was like £2, which was extremely expensive here in Scotland. Now it's 6, and it's got to the point where now people are like, "Oh, hey, that's way too expensive," and they're like, "Oh yeah, well now it's only 5," and people are like, "Oh wow," and it's like, it's a fucking cup of coffee. Who's paying £5 for a Starbucks? Like that is so much money. But it seems like Gaijin's using the same method. They just keep strangling the customer base till they go, right, okay, we're still making money, we're still making money. Everyone's calm enough where it's fine, and then it gets to the threshold where it's like, they actually start to choke the customer base out,
Mm.
and then they start falling back a little bit on how much money they're making. They're like, okay, we need to ease off, just start opening the tap again to give the oxygen flow back to the player
Mm.
base. And I think a lot of people can't really see that, which is fair enough because War Thunder is supposed to be a game, is for people to be entertained. The theme is obviously military vehicles, and it's a very niche product, in terms of gaming for sure. And the people who do play are extremely passionate. This is the one thing, like, I don't think people realize when people are into stuff like history, like specifically, especially when it comes to military vehicles, the I mean, I grew up with it, like air shows and stuff like that, right? Where you're like, wow, jets. It's the it's Gaijin's like, I don't know if they did it on purpose or if it's by accident, but they found the most difficult bunch of people to appease possible, but also the people who are willing to invest their time and money into something like this. And I think Gaijin really understands that, or their bean counters over at Gaijin Entertainment really understand that, and they'll do whatever they can to milk as much money out of people as they possibly could. So it's basically a mobile game like platform now, right?
Yeah,
Like
I
their
think
business model.
that the biggest downfall is actually because it's a historical game. It's based around actual things that happened. Because if this was like League of Legends style game where everything is just made up, I think
Yeah,
people just wouldn't care because there's another thing they can jump to that's kind of similar, but maybe a little bit different. But with War
yeah,
Thunder, there's nothing that really hits the spot because the wargaming games, they're not realistic enough for us, and then you just sort of you have DCS on the other side, but there's nothing in between. There's nothing to compare them to. And so, like you
yeah,
said, the players that are here, they're difficult customers, but they're also the ones, willing to invest
yeah.
their life essentially into it.
One of the things like I like to point out is, um, when I play War Thunder, I don't really care about the historical parts of like warfare. Like, I care about World War Two and what people went through and stuff, and I care about the history there. But from a war perspective, I hate war. Like, I'd much rather these things didn't need to exist. But I don't see War Thunder as some sort of role play game, and I think a lot of players do, which
Mm.
is a little bit concerning. Um, but to me, whenever I see Abrams or a Leopard or a Tiger or a Sherman, eh, I see it in the game. I don't see it any other way. I think it's cool that the setting's sort of realistic, but from a historical realism point of view, everything being like for like, um, in a game, realism doesn't make games fun.
Yes.
Never has. And if you look at games like simulator games and stuff like that, they have very, very niche, very low player accounts. And they're not fun to play for most people, and especially not me. I hate simulators. Like DCS, for example, like I just want to turn my computer on and get in the plane, and for I want it to look realistic,
Hmm.
right? In terms of I want the inputs to feel like I'm making a difference to whatever vehicle it is I'm flying or driving, um but I don't want to be hitting all the right switches, making sure my fuel mixture's right, making sure my radiators at the right position depending on the altitude of my plane. I don't care. I don't care. If it would be entirely different, because I race cars, right? um but see, when I'm playing a racing game, I don't want to be doing all the things I'm doing in
Hmm.
real life.
Hmm.
Yeah, I'm sitting down in a gaming chair. Like I'm not there to be like checking my fuel mixture, putting my dipstick in to make sure my oil's the right viscosity and
Yes.
it's not overheating. I don't want to deal with that. It's the same way I don't want to deal with it in War Thunder. Like I couldn't give a shit.
That
I don't care
completely
how much
makes sense.
horsepower a Tiger has. I don't care about the muzzle velocity of
Hmm.
my M3 75 millimeter. The only reason I know these terms for vehicles is because I play War Thunder, and you need to understand it. You need to have an encyclopedic knowledge of the vehicles in War Thunder to do well in War Thunder. And the only reason I want to do well in War Thunder is because I want to take 10% of my brain power to play the game, 90% of my brain power to tell a story. And I think people will be a lot happier if the game looked realistic, but it still had the arcade elements that it does have, and they just weren't as hidden. And you know, because let's be honest, right? People make fun of World of Tanks for health bars, right?
Hmm.
But War Thunder has health bars. You just don't see them. You see them sometimes with modules in your crew when they turn different shades of gummy bear until they're eventually black and dead or unconscious. Um, but you don't see the health bars for other things that are behind the scenes. So because you don't see the health bars, the game looks more realistic to you, and that's great. But you need to remember is the game is full of health bars, more health bars than World of Tanks has. That's for damn sure. And when you start talking about, oh, this APHE round has this cone of, fragmentation because, such and such did a simulation of it. It doesn't matter. It doesn't make the game more fun.
Yeah.
If a Russian 85mm pens the side of your King Tiger and it explodes your whole crew, it can be frustrating, right? But it's all part of a balance of, in the game. If it took you 6 shots to kill a King Tiger, you'd be pissed off. Like, it wouldn't be fun.
Yeah.
So if you can get the one shot off in the right place, that's where the dopamine comes from, right? That's how games work. Headshots in CS:GO, everything has some sort of like feedback to be like, hey, you did a good thing with skill and you will be rewarded for it. And War Thunder used to be no different, but now it is.
Yeah.
Because now you have planes that have, you press 2 buttons on your keyboard and the thing in front of you dies and there's nothing you can do about it. Fuck you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that was, I think the frustration that was coming from War Thunder players back in my day was always a skill issue. Whenever somebody got shot by a MiG who just, one-tapped from 2 kilometers away in a head-on attack, or if it was a rocket that somebody fired, they were annoyed by the fact that it could be done, but that they couldn't do it regularly. That was my...
Yeah, and that's where the origin of skill issue comes from, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think people grew up in a different generation of games, because when I grew up, it was Counter-Strike was the big thing. Counter-Strike 1.6. I played way beyond there, right? When it was first a mod. But you had to be good at the game to be good at the game. The game wouldn't play it for you, right? And that was the fun, is having to learn. Some people just don't have the fine motor skills or the brain to kind of figure out everything else that's going on round about them within the game, and that's fine. That particular game, Counter-Strike, at a competitive level isn't for you, and that's okay. Like, I don't know why you would be upset at that, right? But when it comes to War Thunder, back when I used to watch you before I played War Thunder, I watched you, Slick, and Fly. You all have different mentalities, right? Fly is funny, haha. War Thunder, enjoyable. That's the level that he plays at, right? He didn't want to be a professional player. He just enjoyed it. Then you've got yourself and Slick, who I would say are similar, right? Where you're playing, you want to play a very high skill level, right? As high as you can possibly push yourself. It's a competitive thing, right? Where you get enjoyment about the learning process in order to get to that level. And that's where you two guys are at. That's how I see it. Am I correct? At least even a little bit?
Yeah. I viewed it as like either you're an entertainer or you're an educator, or trying to be. And so if, like, for me and Slick, it's that state where you're like, I cannot enjoy the game if I don't also show people how to play it.
Right.
So that was sort of, in the back of the brain, was if I can tell people how to play better, then the game becomes better, then we have less overall issues.
Yeah, the disparity between a bad player and a really good player, it becomes less and less, right?
Yes.
You can, and the really good players can get even better if the disparity between the worst players and them is so big.
Correct, yeah.
It's the same. I have noticed, though, over the past couple of years, War Thunder is harder to play in areas where, fire and forget missiles, etc., haven't been introduced, because the player base is getting better. But the player base at the bottom rung is significantly worse. Yeah. Like, yeah, it's why. Oh, how do you get lobbies full of these people who are bad? So, like, first off, those people are just playing the game, and even though they die 3 times in a row and don't get a kill, they just enjoyed driving a tank about, and that's okay. You have to understand, that some people are just like that. They drove about in a tiger in a virtual world, and they were like, hey, it's a tiger tank, this is sick, right? That you can't get angry at those people. That's all they wanted to do. and then you've got the players who, you know, try really hard, but they don't read into how to get better. They
Hmm.
get frustrated because they get killed like by players like myself, yourself, and professional players. And it's either the game's fault or it's your fault for being a sweaty tryhard. But they won't invest their time into going, right, okay, maybe it is me. I should
Yeah.
just go and I
Yeah.
should get better at something. Yeah. Yeah. So it's a big mixing pot. But with War Thunder, it's even more difficult because I introduced a good friend of mine called Duno to play War Thunder, uh, and it was an experiment where I made him load up the game. He looks at the UI. The UI is a fucking nightmare. It is incomprehensible. There's no real guide of where you should be going, what you should be doing, even how to like set a lineup. There's nothing.
Never has
There's
been.
no tutorial. Yeah,
Never
yeah.
has been.
And then your crew skills, how important they are
Mm.
to your success and the enjoyment of the game. Crew skills are the biggest pay to win, the biggest game mechanic that makes, outside of your own skill, that make a difference to how you perform in a match. And it's never explained, which is really unfortunate. And he was just completely overwhelmed. And when he's playing, he was a professional CS:GO player. He says to me, you know how some games are easy to learn, difficult to master, and some games are difficult to learn but easy to master. He said this game is the two worst end of the spectrums. It's difficult to learn and it's difficult to master.
Yes.
And there's no tutorial that Gaijin offer
Mm.
to explain that to you, and that's the worst part
Yeah.
of the game.
And I think that's partially because the people who were creating War Thunder videos for their official channel, the people who were making the tutorials, they didn't really play the game. And it's impossible
Yeah.
for that person to know what they're doing because they're not investing the time. And it was the same with their moderators. And, almost everybody I've ever spoken to is either they were, completely covered up in actual work, which means they don't have the time to play the game because there's some weird, maybe I had a childish perspective, I thought, oh, if you're working for Gaijin, that means your 8 hours of work is actually playing the game. It's like, no, it's doing all the boring administrative things, reading the forum threads and writing emails and crap like that. And the last thing you want to do when you come home is play fucking War Thunder. So they don't know anything about the game. They play maybe 2 matches a month and that's enough for them. And that person can never give you a good tutorial.
Never. I can't give a good tutorial for a couple of reasons. One, I don't think I'm worthy to make a good tutorial that's kind of captivates you and like leads you in the right path in an entertaining way. But the second part is a tutorial that I make, I would make for a player like me, and that doesn't fit 90% of the player base. I've been playing games for well over 30 years, and it's the stuff that you do subconsciously, the information that you process that you cannot give a tutorial for. It's impossible. And if you tried to play like I do, or you do, or Slick does, or even Fly does, you'll fall flat on your face. It'll be even worse.
Mm.
And it's hard to explain to people like what I mean. My eye is constantly watching the minimap to the point where I don't even realize I'm doing it anymore.
Mm.
You've got all these sound cues that we wait on. You've got all the reload times of all the vehicles that shoot at you. Oh, T-34-85, he's 6.5 seconds if he's aced. So I've got round about 8 and 6.5 seconds, but I don't think about that. That's not in the forefront of my mind. It's way back here now.
Mm.
And you cannot teach that. Like, it is impossible. The tutorial would be 4 days long, literally. Like, and it would be of no help to anyone, to no one. So, but it's not, like you said, it's not our job. And it's difficult. Someone would need to get to the stage of being a good player before any of the knowledge I gave them is any use. And it's frustrating for me too, and it's probably frustrating for people to hear it as well. But it's the truth. And I can't go back to playing basic like levels of like let's give an example, right? So it's easier for someone to learn. If you were to do a close air support tutorial
Mm-hmm.
on, say, let's pick something that's like, a good mid round. The 109 F4.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how would you approach that?
A BF1 on F4. I mean, you've got an option for one bomb or not, and that is it, right?
No, you've got the 4 bomblets as well.
You got the 4 bombless now? What, you
It's got the 4
50
50s, yeah.
kilos? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, for a beginner, I'd say don't take the 450s because you're not going to
Right.
hit shit, right?
So already had a hitch already.
I mean,
But if
honestly,
you're a good player,
'cause
what would you bring if you were a good player?
you'd have to approach it with the mindset of like, because I know the average player. I remember the average player. It's like, just take the big bomb and literally suicide dive bomb and see if you can get a kill that way. Because some people wouldn't even manage that.
Yeah.
And then if you can manage, okay, so now you know where the bomb has to be, what radius of the tank, and then by what time do I have to pull back up? And then comes the question: is it on impact? Do you set a fuse? Which fuse do you set? And like suddenly the game gets really complicated.
Yeah. And then you haven't even discussed which tank do I bomb? Which target do I take out that's going to help my team the most?
Mm-hmm.
Or which target do I take out that's going to help me get back into a tank to get into that position to help the rest of my team?
Yeah.
Is there another plane flying in? Do I need to deal with this bomber first? Do I stay at altitude? Well, this aircraft's coming in. Do I fly straight for it? Is that a Yak 9 that's going to fuck me in the asshole if I make a single mistake? There's so much information that you cannot convey in a short period of time. It's impossible.
Yeah. If you spawn into a plane and we press pause and we just looked at the screen, the average player wouldn't see shit. But like we see, like I know exactly. Okay, that's a scratch on my monitor, and that over there is like a little bit of dirt from a sneeze. But those other 3 dots, that I can already tell what plane it is and what player spawned into it, how many spawn points they have. This, like you say, you have this massive amount of knowledge and information that you're constantly accumulating, and it enables you to start sort of playing with the back of your mind. Essentially, you don't have to think about these processes. So really, just a question. I mean, sometimes it's like, okay, I'm not going to make a clean bomb drop. I'm just going to go and throw it on the first thing I see because I know there's planes up in the sky, but I also still want to have a chance at maybe getting some damage onto a tank. But it's no longer a priority. It's like, we need to get these planes out of the air. And already like, okay, so there's 3 guys up. Poof, I just died in the tank. Maybe I should get an SPA right now, Like, and that was, because to me, the most hilarious time of my War Thunder time was patch 1.69 when I was, because leading up to that point, I was grinding the God of War title, which is, 100,000 kills, I think?
Yeah.
And okay, in an RB it's ×2, so only 50,000 kills, just only. And I realized that the fastest way to do it is to just do a lot of close air support, a lot of those rocket strikes. And when they closed down that patch, when they essentially ruined it for close air support, people would still want to fly planes. And that's when I just started spamming out SPA. And what ended up happening is now I had planes in the sky that couldn't really damage me as effectively as they could before. It was harder for them to spawn in, and you were just dominating in SPA because it was still cheap, it was still strong, and you just sort of flipped the script. And to me, it was painful seeing that happen because I realized that this entire time we had a solution. The solution for close air support was just to spawn SPA, which is there for purpose, but nobody ever made an SPA tutorial, and I don't think you could. And even my SPA kill montage was like the most unwatched thing ever because clearly people weren't interested in doing it.
No, and this comes to the same thing that happens specifically low to mid tier before you get radar SPA is the people who complain about close air support don't bring an SPA, or they're not willing to learn how to use SPA properly, or counter to that, bring a fighter in and learn how to fly in order to take out the problem that's there. For an example, which will suit you to a T, because I do watch your streams when you play chess, people try and play War Thunder with just pawns on their chessboard. And you can't play War Thunder like that. It just doesn't work. Like if you're to play War Thunder properly, you need an armor breaker of some sort. So like Nass Horn, something with heat. That it's not a good all-rounder, but if you get up-tiered, it means that you've got something that can take out the harder, more difficult tanks to take out. That has to be your first spawn. There's no two ways about it. Or you have a light tank that has good flanking capability. Those two kind of go hand in hand. You can pick one or the other. Something that can scoot around the map and get good side shots. You can get some scouting done, so you can spawn a plane to deal with the heavier stuff that your lineup can't deal with. And then you need a good all-rounder, which is usually your medium tanks, a Panthery, Sherman, etc. And then you've got your mop-up tank, which will be some sort of heavy, or later on in the game when CAS isn't a problem anymore. Spawn points are running low, and of course the heavier armored vehicles have already been spawned out, so you've got a mop-up tank. Then you got your most important pieces in your arsenal, your anti-CAS / one bomb fighter aircraft, like your 109 F4. That has to be in your lineup. There's no way you can live without it now. That deals with your attackers. It deals with your bombers. It also deals with other fighters that are on equal pegging to you. You have one bomb, maybe two. In the 109's case, you have 4 50-kilogram bomblets, which, if you're good enough, are very, very good. And then you've got your attacker for the heavy, hard-hitting stuff. Full up tiers where, hey, you've got a Yag Tiger that you have nothing in your lineup can take it frontally. That's what bombs are for, right? Your Tiger 2s. And then, again, your SPA, your next most important thing. The stop your team getting fucked from the Skymobile, Whirlwind, Quellian, M19, unfortunately, or M42 if you're an allied side. You've got Pragas now. The SPA for most nations is good enough now where if you're good at playing it, you've got the patience to play it, you need an SPA in your lineup. And that's just the long and short of it. But most people, they'll bring out Panther A, Panther G, Panther F, Panther D, a Tiger, and that's it. And then they'll complain that they're getting cast.
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing?
The way
you brought the wrong pieces in.
The way you mentioned chess, it just makes me feel like it's not just that they want to play with pawns, is they want to play the rook, third.
Yeah, they want to play the rook. They want to play the bishop. Yeah, like...
And they get the rook out, but they forget about some other piece. The bishop is slicing the board, and the queen's, eyeing everything. And they fall for these traps the same way they would on a chessboard, except that War Thunder is one hell of a more complicated chessboard.
It's 5D chess.
It's crazy.
Yeah, there's so much more you need to think about. Yeah. But yeah, that's just how your lineup should be built, right?
Yeah, but I mean, refusal. It's refusing to have certain pieces. I'm not going to have the bishops, and I'm going to replace one of my knights for another pawn because I like pawns, and then they're like, oh, but I keep getting destroyed because you're not playing the pieces that you do have the option to play with.
Yeah. Yeah.
I want to spawn in my King Tiger 5 times. Like, you can, but
it's a problem if you bring it out in the wrong situation. Every vehicle has a situation that it excels in. Some vehicles don't have an area that they'll excel in ever, and that's the most frustrating thing about most vehicles in War Thunder don't get brought out. I don't know if you've ever been in a game recently where it's just meta lineups. As long as everyone has the meta lineup, it's an insane game.
I haven't played in months, and even when I did log in, I would play like maybe a match of 5.7 tanks,
Yeah.
So I really wouldn't know, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, these events come around, right, from time to time. Well, there's one shortly, I think, and it just brings up all the meta lineups. And as long as you're playing a meta lineup too, it's okay. But if you're trying to be like, oh, hey, I'm going to bring this fun goofy tank out, and all of a sudden there's 4 KV-220s on the enemy team. They've all got Tismas, right. They've all got the premium TUs and shit. It's like, right, this is not fun. So the only way you can have fun is to bring a meta lineup yourself. And unfortunately, people get caught in that trap. But that's not the player's fault. That's Gaijin's fault. They brought all these event vehicles out that are inaccessible. And when these events come out and people want to get the new shiny stuff, they bring out the best lineup that they could possibly bring. And everyone else in between gets fucked. And it's a product that Gaijin has brought around. And the only way that you can get around it is to spend money.
Yeah, you have to join them.
Yeah.
It's not the way.
Yep.
I mean, my biggest pain was, and the pet peeve, because those of us who started at the very beginning of the game, I can close my eyes right now and I can just envision the 5 nations, just aircraft, because that was all that was in there. actual tiers from 1 to 20, and the highest thing you could get premium wise was maybe like rank 11 or 13, maybe. And it forced you to actually get really good. So if you saw somebody in a saber, that person has been grinding for a while. They're probably quite good at the game. And nowadays you can buy yourself into whatever tier War Thunder has now, 7 or 8. Which takes away that feeling of, is it deserved, and is this player capable enough of actually using the vehicle? Because this is why part of me actually never had a problem with repair costs, because I kept thinking it should be expensive because it should be punishing for the players who are playing the game incorrectly. But it's hard to play the game correctly because I don't think Gaijin knows how to play it correctly.
No, they don't, and they don't have it. Dude, if you buy, still, you've got MiG-27, right? You've got A10, the F5. There's quite a few now, like, top tier jets that you can buy with real money. But the issue is you buy that jet straight away, because this happens quite commonly. Some people don't care about World War II stuff, right? And they want a fancy jet. They just care about jets. And if they want to buy into it, that's fair enough. But the issue is the tutorial for War Thunder is in a fucking biplane. There's no tutorial for the jets that they sell.
Yes.
And to make matters worse, the binds aren't set for radar missiles. So you buy a brand new jet and you can't fire the missiles that you get unless you go bind them yourself. There's no tutorial to do it. Like,
key bindings are one of the biggest things that, so many players I know didn't get their key bindings correct, and it makes playing impossible. But it's like you said, it's not just the tutorials. It's, if you open up the homepage, all the things that are in those tabs on the top left, they haven't changed since day one. The invite link to invite a friend to play War Thunder to get you, 200 golden eagles or whatever, it hasn't changed. It's the same as it was day one. The historical battles that used to get included in the most expensive pack they sold, they're still the same. It's the same exact single-player mission with the same AI, zero. It makes you wonder, why is that menu there unchanged? Why so much is being added, so much development time is being spent, but the core basics, and yet the stuff that, for me, made me enjoy the game, namely just sitting in the hangar, listening to the hangar music, that's no longer there because they've removed the soundtrack that used to be there. The decals that we could put on our wings, and that I don't even dare to think how many hours I spent to get the orange wing on all the planes, and now it's all gone. They're all ruined. That sort of pain is indescribable to somebody who just started playing yesterday. But as I'm listening to you, and as I'm thinking about it now, somebody who starts playing today, no key bindings, no tutorial, no guide, interface that's all over the place. I mean, how does that person even think about staying?
Yeah, exactly. And it comes back to my friend Coldino, who I introduced. He just got frustrated and bored really quick because they're like, hey, I've spent more time in the UI setting up my keys, than I have actually playing and enjoying myself. It's like, okay, yeah, fair enough. Yeah, I get it. And the thing is that War Thunder now has become self-policing as well, and this really pisses me off. Mostly Reddit. Someone will come with a problem, and the Reddit cops come in and go, idiot, like, you should have known this. You should have done this to, such and such's tutorial teaches you how to do this. And it's like, why can't you go back and say, hey, yeah, Gaijin fucked this up? Because it's their fault. It's their game. They didn't have a tutorial for it. You now have, like, hundreds of hours under your belt. You can't go to this person that's got, 2 or 3 and say, you're the stupid one because you didn't find the bind that was very poorly translated under the wrong category for them to be able to fire the radar missile. Like, come the fuck on, guys. Like, you can't complain about the game on one side and then blame the new player base for their shortcomings because it was, it's not their fault, dude. It's not their fault.
Reddit is... War Thunder subreddit is such a particular place, and I hated it because I got I had this feeling that the whole of Reddit was like that. That everything that was on this website was like that. And in some ways it is, but it's, you know, how many times I was streaming and some kid who just started playing yesterday must have really, you know, gotten the courage to type in front of all these people and ask what was essentially a stupid question, just to have a chance at somebody who was experienced to give him the answer. And those are the players that you really should be helping, you know. Like, those are the players that we have to find a way. Well, not anymore. Not for me, obviously. I don't care. But like, it would have been beneficial. And so, because this again takes me back to that time of close air support, where it's this really weird spot to be in. Like, you as a player, you've got thousands of hours. You see this, you know, like I said, all those calculations are going on, and you're like, to me, this is balanced. And you talk to the other really experienced players, and like, they're like, yeah, well, you know, maybe a little bit unbalanced, but I mean, this pretty much works. And then you have another side which is just going crazy and making it seem not like a small problem or a big problem, but a massive game-breaking, we have to fix this immediately problem. And it's, hell, I'm starting to see similar things happen in, you know, in real life, in politics. You have this exact same effect. We have, you know, just these two polarizing opinions, and then you're just sort of sitting in the middle, just thinking, what the hell is wrong with both of you? You know, like, there has to be some middle ground. But we know how Gaijin fixes things. They're a company that does these double fixes where a nerf will be met with a buff, which just creates disbalance again, and they just tick it off. And
how it is. They create an arms race, a virtual arms race that forces people to spend money to stay current, rather than, you know, the player base developing skills in order to deal with the things that, you know, like, you know, play the game.
Yeah.
This is how it should be played. It should be. But remember, when I first started playing War Thunder, the best tank, I think, was the M1 Abrams and the Leopard 2A4. But you still had to
wait, that's
learn
when you
where to aim.
started playing the game?
That's when I started playing,
Shit, that was me basically one big foot out of the fucking window at that point.
Yeah. Basically, I think you kind of, like, you know, slowed down your content.
No, I think I had actually, like, in my head, I think I quit by the time you had the KPZs.
Yeah.
So when the for me, it was the Leopard 1 or the Leopard 1A2, those two Leopards. When those things were top tier, so like T64 was in the game. I was still kind of like, I can kind of live with this. This is still manageable. But then as soon as like the radar guided things got those little, essentially they gave us the arcade markers. So the marker you have for planes in arcade was now in ground battles for SPA. And when I saw that, I was like, I'm out of here. I can no longer play this.
Yeah, the lead indicator.
Yeah.
So then, like, you know, I was like, oh, hey, like, these are really easy to aim, right? Like the Abrams, like APFS DS and stuff. I was like, oh, like, wow, this is really fast paced, and you know, it kind of sucks. It's a little bit boring to play, but like everything was still relatively, like, you know, in balance compared to what it is now. And when they added laser rangefinder, like adjusting the aim for you, I was like, what the fuck is this? Like, now I don't need to think about, you know, the arc of the round, right? All I need to think about is lead. And the rounds were that good at the time, you didn't even need to think about aiming for a weak spot. And then it just took the skill away. But what it did in reality, and I don't think people realize this, is for players like me and the thousands of players who are better than me, it didn't just give new players the ability to shoot you. What it did was it gave the best players in the game a button to press to take the guesswork away. So not only did they have the map knowledge, the knowledge of weak spots, they didn't have the random chance where they would miss anymore because they had the range thing set up for them, which is ridiculous. Like, I still think laser rangefinder should not be in the game. Like, it should tell you the range, so you have to, you know, guess the arc of the shot yourself, but the guesswork's mostly taken out. it shouldn't just aim the gun for you. It's silly. Like, it is really dumb. Why is that a thing?
Yeah, I mean, for
Why?
me, I didn't even back when the regular rangefinder was at it. Didn't even use
Yeah.
that. You know, I was always one of those people that just aim the gun up and pray to the gods, and
Yeah.
it'll work.
But do you know what happens? And you see this a lot in my videos, right? I play top tier. Someone will drive around my side, like point blank, and still hit their laser rangefinder button. And by the time, I don't know if it's in their head where they're like, oh, yeah, I need to wait until this happens before I shoot my shot. The time it's taken them, I've turned my barrel around and shot and killed them. Like, I'm like, why did you laser rangefind me at less than 100 meters? Like, why did you laser rangefind me at all? Like, within 1,000 meters? What's the point?
It's
Like,
probably a
you've got
force of
that.
habit, you know.
Yeah. Like, and it shows you how dumbed down people have become. Sad, dude.
Yeah.
Where's this skill at?
I don't know. Maybe this is part of, you know, us older gamer generations, because we grew up with video games that had, well, there was nothing to save at. Like, if you die, you just go all the way back to the beginning of the level. And
Again, yeah, that's right.
there was a lot of punishment in those video games, but also I think that the accomplishment of finishing it, you know, like it made you go to bed feeling fulfilled or angry, and then you were prepared to do it the next day. But with War Thunder, it's just like, it's just one more game, one more game, one more game, one more game. It's 2 a.m, and you're no closer to grinding out your next thing that you wanted. And
yeah, the dopamine hunt in War Thunder is gone for me. You know, like the target destroyed thing that pops up.
mm-hmm.
Like the dopamine comes for me for like having a good fight and a story to tell, to upload it onto YouTube, because it's not, the game isn't like fun anymore. it's like everything's done for you. Like you've got Mavericks now, right? Like you press a button to lock the tank, you press another one to fire your missile. It's over. Like the person's already dead. Unless they find a bridge to hide under, you know, or break the lock with a missile, but they don't know what's happening. Same with helicopters. There's a reason I don't play them. They're just boring to play. Like you're playing like a, what did you call those? What do you call those games again? Like the sort of like whack-a-mole type scenario, like those turret defense games. You know what I'm talking about? That's what you're playing. But those are other people you're shooting at, and it's shit for them because they don't know what's happening unless they're in an anti-air that's equally as powerful as the helicopter or worse.
I mean, I think it's ironic because the thing that people were complaining about that I was doing, like with rockets, which I understand, sure. Like if I sniped somebody from 2 kilometers away in a saber going sidewind and just, you know, lodging one missile, yeah, probably annoying because that person just died and they really didn't know what was going on. But
yeah,
now you do the same thing, but the skill isn't required from my end. You just press a button and boom, you know.
Yeah, the little X shows up like where you should aim. Dude, if someone killed me with an RP3 like 4 years ago from 2 kilometers away, I'd be like, holy shit. Like,
I mean, your reaction is either this person is hacking or they're just really good. And then you'd open up I don't think people do this anymore, but, you know, back in my day, I remember, especially in air battles, is the first thing you would do is you would press, I think it's N or M on the keyboard to see the people you're playing against. And your heart would sink. You know, when you're on Korea and you're in a MiG and you can just see like 4 dudes from the same squadron that you all know.
You see Defen or you see Copsy and it's like, oh Christ.
And you would have these dudes that would be rushing from the airfield where there was this one particular way to take off in a MiG where you'd you know, just go through the valley. And it was also fun to play, you know, because as a MiG person, what you're doing is you're going into that state of, let me attack them from below, let me do something that they don't expect, and they'll just pick your team.
Them,
And if you were on the opposite team, it would actually be your duty to go into chat and say, okay, look, we got these guys, they're going to be rushing, they'll be coming from below you, just keep your eyes peeled. But you always have those dudes in the back, just like, oh, la, 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 I'm watching YouTube, and boom, he's dead. And it's like, oh my God, what happened? You know, Gaijin. It's like, nope, this one was on you.
Yeah. No, you can get outskilled. I don't get annoyed at getting outskilled. I get annoyed at being killed by game mechanics.
Yes.
Like, hey, I didn't, like, the engine sound of the enemy didn't play. But, oh, why are you mad at that guy? He just shot you in the side. It's like, I should have been able to hear him. Like, you know, I can't be watching all sides of me at all times. It just is not possible, which is where sound cues come from, right? So that pisses me off. I get killed by a helicopter when my no matter what SPA I have selected, like I don't have the range to hit him back. That's annoying. That sucks. Like it's bad. Then you take a plane out to shoot the helicopter down, but it's got all aspect like 8 kilometer range missiles that are unflareable and can pull 50 Gs. What's the point? Like, why is the helicopter there? It has everything.
Yeah.
What do I do? Like,
I had the same issue.
there's
Like
no way
with,
to outskill it. You can't outskill that.
Yeah, yeah. Or like I don't know, AI SPA on air battles nowadays. Because I know I played one jet match a few months back, and I was like, so essentially, if they're within their airfield, you can't touch them; they're invincible. And it's ironic because this isn't the first time that happened. There were like at least 2 other instances where they had buffed SPA in the airfields to prevent base camping, but it just creates a different type of base camping. And it was...
Yeah, how I feel about SPA and ARB is it shouldn't fucking be there.
Yeah.
Like, if you run out of ammo or fuel, right, there shouldn't be a free pass to land and take back off again.
I mean,
like
the SPA there used to be something that players were grinding with. Like a really good team would, because usually the last person left in their team is landing. So now what? You're going to now wait for him to land and rearm and get back into the air and wait to get outside of the SPA range before you go attack him? Of course not. You're just going to go, the whole team's going to just... And what would happen is that everybody's rushing for the target, and last minute you realize, because there's still, even after you've destroyed him, there's a little bit of ticket bleed, and that time can be spent, let me get 1, 2, 3, 4 SPA kills in a row of the AAA. That's a little bit of extra civil lines, a little bit of extra RP that was going to research. And if you did that consistently, that was a fun thing to do. Hell, if somebody was really bad, they're flying back in the day, like F-ADC Shooting Star, which, I don't know, 8.0 now, from the top of my head, would fight in the same battle.
Lower, yeah,
it would fight in the same battle as a MiG-15 bis. And so what that guy would do if he was stock is he would just go about and kill some ground targets. Because, 10, 12 boring ground kills of AAAs and trucks is still better than just getting blasted to smithereens by some pro player in a MiG. And now that's not possible anymore,
Nope, get radar missiled from fucking Kingdom Come, dude.
Yeah.
You just get Narnia'd. Like, it's insane. Like, it's not really that fun for me to play. I know like some people still like top tier jets, right? And that's cool. Like, the reason I don't play jets is because I don't get excited by pressing 2 buttons and watching the game do the kill for me. It's boring. It's not how I like. I much prefer a prop fight where hey, it's like almost even terms.
Yeah.
Let's go. Yeah. But there's nothing. Listen, the best thing in War Thunder that can ever happen, right? You spawn in, you open up your scoreboard, and you see someone you recognize as a good player. You get your couple of kills, right? You've capped. Somebody takes you out, and then you get in a plane. You hit tab, and you notice the guy has died once, and there's a black dot in the sky, and you're like, right, whoever wins this fight in the air wins this match.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And you get there, you're in your yak or whatever, and he's in his 109, and then you both realize at the exact same time, yeah, it's him, and you start spamming your space bar to get rid of the excess weight. And that's like the gloves off,
yes.
right? Whoever wins this duel up here wins the match. Dude. That's the coolest moment in War Thunder, I think. Yeah.
I once said that matches in ground battles are won by the top 3 players of each team.
They are.
What everybody else does really doesn't matter. Is the top 3 players are going to be holding the glue together.
Whether it's the good players or it's an average player is just having a really good match, yeah, that's how it is, and it happens all the time. For YouTube videos, the content makes itself, right? Like, it's always me and like the top 3 versus an entire enemy team. Those are the best games.
Yeah.
Trying to hold them back. Some people get frustrated at it. I watch like a lot of people on Twitch, playing War Thunder. Akula especially, Cave Nub. and they'll quite often be the last person on the team crying that their team was useless. But you're watching there, they've got 15 kills, right? And you're just like, let's go, dude. Like,
Yeah.
I'm excited watching you doing this. Yeah, I don't know why you're not excited. This is great. Like, it's good. It's fun to watch. Yeah.
I
But
think
it can be frustrating if all you want to do is win.
that's the experience that I never got, because I think the only people I was watching on Twitch were people that weren't playing War Thunder. And I wonder what it must have looked like, I guess, if you watched my stream at peak close air support, let's say, because that must have been, tons of people spamming in chat. I was being energetic. You're constantly, heckling them. It's like a stand-up show at some point. You've got all this going on the monitor. You've got the music blasting. You've got people donating stuff. There's reactions all over the place. It must be, from a viewer point of view, I think it really has to be an exciting place to be.
Yeah, I love watching upbeat streamers playing War Thunder. There's not very many of them, right? But they're fun to watch. Oh, BPA John, he's he plays tournaments, Spanish guy. It's great fun to watch. Gets emotional about stuff, like angry and excited about things, laughs. It's really fun to watch something. And that's how I play as well, right? It's the same deal. Like, I'm not as good as them, but I'm still enjoying my time, right? I can commentate about it at the same time, make a story from it. It's not about being good at the game. It's about, showcasing what can happen if you learn how to play. Really. Yeah.
To me, that was an issue back when I was recording content, because, you're trying to catch that perfect game, and not necessarily the game that showcases you as an amazing player, but a game that showcases, like you say, a situation which you can use for an amazing story.
Yeah.
And not all matches fit it. Like, not all matches go with, okay, this is what I wanted to tell today.
Yeah, for example, people say, "Oh, you only show your best games." I'm like, I don't. I actually have to show not the best games, because my best games, I'll steamroll an enemy team, 16 kills, didn't die once, but half the enemies I shot were in their spawn because there was nowhere else for me to go, right? And sure, I'll get one-tapped sometimes, right? But generally, I've got the map knowledge and the understanding to go, yeah, I shouldn't go there, I'll die quickly, right? So the bad games are way less common than all the good ones, and you can't hide it, right? People can check your stats. That's how.
But I don't think they're real. I mean, there's also the issue with War Thunder's player names, because you have different capitalizations, will still go through. So for me, the in theOrangeDoom is not capitalized, but you're going to have a bunch of other accounts that are similar but not actually you, and then you'll have those stories, and this is a classic case if you're a content creator at any given point in time. Somebody kills you, and then they go up on Reddit or whatever, or they say, yeah, met him once, he did this and this, embarrassed himself, and then just left. And it begs the question, was it actually the player? Was I...
Yeah, but that does happen to me, and it is me, right? Because what I'll do is, I'll get a map. If it's a map I don't enjoy, if I'm making a War Thunder video, I'll have one or two vehicles in my lineup. Yeah, but I won't leave it because I'll get crew logged, right? I'll drive somewhere, and I'll face my tank on its side, and I'll let somebody kill me, and then I'll leave so I don't get crew logged. Because, and I know people will get frustrated, right? I don't get annoyed at one death leavers anymore. I used to, because, the way I thought it was, people were just trying to grind and they didn't care how anyone else played, right? But there's another person on the other side of the keyboard that might just want to be, hey, I want to play my Stim Tiger today. Oh, I died in it. I'm going to the next match, right? People play the way they want to play, and you need to just understand that's how this game is. It's a sandbox type environment, competitive environment. If they want to leave, let them fucking leave, dude. Like, it's not a big deal. So for me to just drive out, deliberately turn my tank on its side and get killed on purpose, I don't want to play what's it, Sverse map? Dude, I fucking hate it. Like, there's so many maps I don't enjoy, right? So I will just drive out and I'll die on purpose, because my life's too short, right? To be sitting playing Sverse 19 4 times in a row. I don't want to do it. And that's the quickest way for me to leave and play the same tank that I wanted to play. So people can get upset about that, right? But like I said, life's too short. I don't want to not have fun. I play games to enjoy myself, right? I don't play games to make everyone else enjoy it that's in the lobby, because I put up a little bit of a fight, back again. It is, and until that's it. Again, it's Gaijin's problem. They don't have a map voting system. They don't have a system where you can ban more than one map. Oh, Red Desert is the map that I've banned, by the way, because it's massive. And the time it takes for me to drive somewhere for someone to shoot me is 8 minutes.
Jesus. Wait,
It's stupid.
I'm trying to think which maps were really huge. Like, from the top of my head, I know Kursk was the first big map they added. And then you had...
Kursk is small now, really.
Kursk is small?
Yeah, because you can drive into line of sight of the enemy spawn fairly quickly.
Okay.
So it's like, I think it's like 2.6 kilometers spawn to spawn.
Damn.
But Red Desert is almost 4 kilometers spawn to spawn. And the spawn is just open area. And then you've got these giant rock formations in the middle. And they're huge, right? They're like 500 meters wide. Like big, raised things between the spawns. So by the time it takes you to navigate through all that to get someone to kill you, from the point of me recording, which is hitting to battle, to returning back to the menu again, is almost crew lock periods of time.
Jeez.
For a Sherman to drive that length. So that's why that's on the ban list. Because any other map is fairly short to get knocked out to reset again.
Even just sitting here, I can immediately think of a solution for those big maps, and that's just you increase the multiplier of how much you gain. So for players to be in a match for longer,
wow, you opened up your brain and come up with a competent thought of, holy moly, it could be fixed overnight. But no. Let's just make them play Red Desert 3 times in a row. And if you leave, you'll have to wait 8 minutes before you can join back in the game with that particular vehicle that you wanted to play.
And make 2 of those times a night match just to add insult to injury.
My mind is blown. Wow, if you play a bigger map, you get more XP and silver lines? Nah,
it's crazy, man. It's crazy. Literally just
thought
of that, like such a simple solution. It would work.
Yeah, it's off the top of your head, it would work. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, it wouldn't work for me because I grind so much anyway, right? Here's another thing: people think Gaijin give me stuff, which they do, right? But if you look at my stat card, you'll see that I actually grind the vehicles, right? There's a reason I have like what? Let's just check how many hours on Steam alone, right? This is going to make me sick looking at this, probably.
We'll see. We'll see how close to my hours you are.
So on Steam alone, and now for the past year I've been using the launcher, 13,452 hours.
13,000?
Yes.
Fuck me.
So it must be close to 18k, I would think.
How did you get to 18k?
Because I played every day, on stream.
You started playing later than me. I mean, the thing is, I only played on the launcher, so I only have the in-battle times, which means I don't have the times that were spent in the lobby.
You got that, don't you? Yeah. How do you find that in your player profile? This would be interesting to know.
Yeah, I think go to just a player profile, and then you've got how many hours were spent.
I won't be surprised if I'm overtaking you now or not.
It's possible. The only thing I know nobody will ever overtake me in again is spading everything. Because if anybody manages that, I'll personally give them a blowjob. Seriously, that's impossible.
What's that? What did you do?
To spade everything. Every vehicle in the game unlocked and fully upgraded.
Yeah, so I do that, but I'm way behind you with that probably. Well, I'm not sure. You can actually check that statistic too, right?
I mean, it would show, like below your profile picture, you'd have basically the vehicles you have unlocked as number. And then there'll be a logo of Spade. How many of those have been?
Yeah.
But if you think about it now, all the boats, all the helicopters, all the stuff that's being added.
Yeah, and I don't enjoy Naval. Naval looks like it's getting better, but I just don't enjoy it. So let's see. Air vehicles. Does it say like, oh yeah, time played in fighter?
I think it's in days.
It's in... Oh, it's in months.
It's in months?
Yeah. Whew. Time played in air battles, 1.7 months. time played in a fighter, 1.3 months.
Jeez.
So yeah. Overall play time, as in time in realistic battles, 5.3 months.
Damn.
Crazy. What a waste of my
That's
life.
essentially half a year of non-stop playing.
Half a year of
That's
non-stop
crazy.
playing. Yeah.
Actually, that makes me wonder now, because I'm sure Gaijin has stats for, the people who are the highest in those numbers.
Oxy and Copsy, and they've hired them.
Damn. It's going to be like crazy numbers. They must be like 40,000.
Well over a year.
Like,
well over a year in battles, yeah.
Damn.
So yeah, there you go. How many kills? Did it tell you that? Oh yeah. Air targets destroyed, 21,000. Ground targets destroyed. Getting close to a big number here, 94,377 ground targets destroyed.
But that's without.
Almost.
That's with the multiplier or without?
Without.
Okay.
So that's close to 100k.
Just in ground kills.
Just in ground kills, yeah.
Damn.
I'm over 100k combined.
Yeah. That's impressive. Yeah. I was going to ask you this. In regards to other video games, is there some other game that you play, perhaps some single player stuff that's like your escape? And do you have a favorite game of all time?
Oh, this is a really difficult one. My favorite franchise of all time. Let's touch on that first.
Mm-hmm.
Metal Gear Solid. Yeah, I've got some memorabilia and stuff here from Metal Gear Solid. Yeah, those kind of hooked me in the sort of gaming world, if you get me, that sort of genre. Games that I play to like just enjoy myself, many of them. I do play quite a lot of games. I've been playing 7 Days to Die recently with some streamer friends, which is quite janky and shit, but any game playing with your friends, even War Thunder, is fun. My dark secret is Warhammer Darktide, which is basically like Left 4 Dead, which brings me to favorite games of all time. Yeah, Left 4 Dead 2 is one of them. I would say Phantom Pain. I know a lot of Metal Gear Solid people are going to be upset that I picked that out of all my favorites, but I like the free roam thing. Phantom Pain's up there too. The Rainbow Six originals before it turned to Siege, whatever sort of anime cartoon version of Rainbow Six that's supposed to be. Yeah, that I would say War Thunder's definitely there, right? But I would take it off the list in recent times. God, Counter-Strike, obviously. But Counter-Strike feels more of a job than even War Thunder does. So, yeah, hard to say like a favorite when you've played it at some sort of competitive level, you know? Oh, there's so many, dude. It's, I've got so many. Like, a lot of these won't even be in my, my Steam list. They're that old.
I mean, you're also going to have games that you probably would have to get some, emulator or a old PC to even get them to run.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, I'm just trying to think of like current ones. In terms of single players, Titanfall 2 single players goated, as well as Portal and Portal 2. I don't think we'll ever see games of that caliber anymore, like ever again. Just the humor and the creativity and everything that was put on, it's done. I think we can forget about it now. Yeah. Dead Space 1. I never liked a horror game because I thought they were all boring. I was talking about this yesterday, actually. Dead Space broke the mold with the like minimal cutscene, very visceral. The UI was built into your character's suit, third person. Was very well done. super well done.
Did you play Alien by any chance?
The Alien Isolation.
Yes.
So I haven't because I've wanted to play it on VR.
Hmm.
Because I don't get scared at games. I get jump scares and stuff, right? Everyone does, but I don't get the tension because I'm so self-aware of me sitting in a chair in a house, you know, on a monitor. But I think VR might, if I put a VR headset on, because I've not really played that much of it other than like Beat Saber and stuff to keep fit. I think if I put myself in a horror situation in a VR, it'll hit a lot harder, you know. So
I
I've saw
wouldn't
good
dare. I
things
mean,
about it.
because for me, Alien was the scary bit was actually the frustration of, having to crawl through half of some, space somewhere and through all the doors and find the key cards and stuff. And then when you're almost to the checkpoint, the fucker comes around a corner through a vent somewhere and just scares the living shit out of you. Plus, obviously, resets you back to the beginning.
Yeah, I think that's what I miss though, you know. Which I think, if I play it in VR, I'll get like a double hit. It's like, taking a new drug for the first time. That's sort of, you know. And by the way, this vape here is non-nicotine, and I'm coming off of it, which I'm having a hard time. Hence the 4 weeks of no war thunder mainly.
So you've been a smoker?
Don't do drugs, kids. Vape. So I quit sugar, and to compensate for the habit of having something sweet in my mouth, I decided to vape. I got addicted to nicotine. Stupid. Just don't do that shit. So now I've got a non-nicotine one. I'm trying to wean myself off, and it's a horrible addiction. Not as bad as sugar. Coming off of sugar was a nightmare. One of the worst experiences in my life.
Sugar is really bad. We don't talk about it. It's,
Oh, horrendous stuff. Like I had I've had a situation where, we'll never know where I suspected aneurysm, and then because they didn't have a consultant doctor to take a lumbar puncture from me. Actually, I was coming flying back from Slovenia. That happened on the airplane coming back. The doctor doing the lumbar puncture tore the lining of my spinal column, which leaked all my spinal fluid out, which gives you a type of headache they describe as a suicide headache. I had that for 4 weeks.
Fuck.
Coming off of sugar was worse than a brain aneurysm. So there you go.
Jesus Christ.
Yes. But I drank a lot of energy drinks, and I would eat like a 4-pack of like Snickers bars a day.
4-pack?
Like two or three monsters. Yeah, I lived off of sugar. Was working 18 hours a day. And I just had to, you probably know what it's like being a chef, right?
Yeah.
And being in that sort of environment. Not that I was a chef, but I ran a warehouse. I run two airsoft fields, and I organised big events. So I was working 18 hours a day, and that's the only way I could keep the energy up is eating sugar, but never again. It's a falsehood. It lies to you.
It
gives you energy you don't have.
Yeah.
Yeah. So never again.
It's scary.
I've never slept better. I've never felt better. It's been like almost 10 years now since, But yeah, even I allow myself a couple a week Pepsi Max cherry. That's it. That doesn't even have sugar in it.
Do you ever get that moment? I mean, I'm far to say I'm off sugar, but I do the actual like fake sugar, the processed sugar. I try to be completely off of, but
yeah.
I think just the other day I poured myself a glass of Coke, and it was ice cold and a slice of lemon in it, looking all swell, and I took a sip and I was just like, no, and I just poured it the fuck out.
Yeah. It tastes like shit. Yeah. It tastes revolting.
Like there are times where I need it. Like if I've done a really long bike ride, sometimes I'd come home you're completely empty, and at that point you need the sugar just to get back to baseline. But I observed too many people. I had a couple of friends, especially when they were overweight, and they would jump into the supermarket to get themselves, something to drink for the next 3 hours we're going to be hanging out, and it was never just water. It was always like water with flavor or a Coke or something or a juice and it's like you start deriving, like you said, energy from just the sugar, and it's energy that's not there.
It's just borrowed energy, but it's coming out of your health.
Yeah,
it's really bad for you. Yeah. And I got better at games without it too. My concentration levels so much higher. Yeah, I just drink water now. No, people are gonna shout at me for bottled water, but the water in my house is currently not drinkable. So this is where we're at.
Is it due to weather complications or?
No, it's the chlorine content is so high,
Ah,
gives me acid reflux.
Jesus.
It's like brown.
Oh my
Actually,
God.
the water has a consistency, and it is obviously not. It's not very good for you. You shouldn't be eating that,
Damn.
drinking that. It's bad.
I mean, I've heard obviously also, horror stories of tap water being not the best, but it's because like I've got a book that I want to read, which is called Estrogenation. So essentially, like you'll have women who are on birth control, and
Oh yeah, I've heard about this.
when they
Yeah,
piss, all of that goes into the water. Now the question is,
takes a while to
how do you filter
degrade,
that
right?
through it? Yeah.
Yeah,
Because when I think
yeah,
about the stuff that we flush, like the shit that I flushed down the toilet this morning, that will be in the tap water tomorrow. That's the sort of thought process I've got, and it's like the tap water tastes good, but it always tastes the same. Like, what is the system that they're putting it through? What are the chemicals that it's going through, and is it picking up all those imperfections? I don't imagine that it's extensive enough to pick up all the shit from it.
it will get to the stage where it's like almost untreatable, right?
Probably
But not in our lifetime.
no,
That won't happen in our lifetime.
no.
Yeah, yeah. We're supposed to have good water here, but I don't think it's like Scottish water's
Hmm.
problem. I just think it's this property line that has an issue for whatever reason.
Oh, but it's bizarre because I was once in Italy, in the Dolomites on this cycling trip, and I was at the bottom of one of the like steepest hills. Like it's called the Wall of Sormano, because it's just a wall, and
Yeah.
it's known for where they finish the race in Lombardia. And I stopped down there, and I was completely out of water. And there was one Italian dude that you can clearly tell doesn't speak English, and there was a pit with water, and it was flowing. And I was like, fuck, I don't know if this is drinkable or not. The sign says something. I didn't think about taking Google Lens picture and translating it. So I look at the Italian dude, and I was just like trying to think, okay, what do you say? Was it aqua? And I just go, thumbs up or thumbs down, like some Roman Caesar. And he looks at me, he's like aqua buono, buono, like it's water delicious, perfect. Okay, great. I fill up my water bottles. I get to the top of the hill. I descend down to the valley, and I'm now on the opposite side of the lake where I'm supposed to get back to my Airbnb. Plus, I've got some 500 meters of climbing to do once I get there, and my stomach is just like, dude, you're gonna shit now. And the whole time,
Your body's not used to it.
it was
Basically.
so bad. And the whole time I was just thinking, because one water bottle was filled with just water, and one water bottle was filled still with a leftover sugary drink. And now the trick was, how much of this sugary shit can I still drink that's going to allow me to actually get back, because I'm completely low on energy, and how much is too much and is going to cause me to shit everywhere and uncontrollably. And this whole spot, this was Lago di Como, which is, it isn't like, I assume somewhere in Scotland, go around the corner and there's just nothing, and you can just take a shit in the bush and it's fine.
Yeah.
Here it's just houses everywhere, tourism everywhere. Like there's not a single bush in sight where you could hide. So I just made it back to the Airbnb. I crashed into the bathroom. The girl I was with was taking a shower, and I was like, "This is an emergency. Just evaporate the toilet." And I vowed like never again to drink from some random source, because you never
like
know.
Spring.
Like,
Yeah. No, your body's just not going to be used to it. Is the thing. Yeah. Yeah, you have to wean yourself on certain minerals and stuff.
mhm.
So when you do like, it's different bottled waters. Like the margins between bottled water are so close to each other, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But like from a natural spring or whatever, could be absolutely jam packed full of magnesium. You take a swig of that, and your body's like, "What the fuck
Yes.
is this?" Yeah, evacuate. Yeah, yeah. But the more you drink it, the more you're used to it, right? I think most people who have gone abroad and drank the tap water have had some variation of the shits,
Yes.
right? And you can't blame the water most of the time, because it's just your body's response to whatever mineral content is in there. And it's not all minerals your body will process. It's just natural stuff that's in there
Yeah.
that your body's just not used to, yeah. And it's good that you have the shits because your body's like, this is foreign. Why did you do this?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. You're comes back to the scrotum thing, right?
Oh, I was about to say.
Fix this stuff.
It all goes back to the scrotum in the end.
Yeah,
I was gonna.
it's
Oh,
bad.
yeah. It really is mad. It's crazy. I'm gonna go to bed today thinking about how we're all just scrotums essentially.
You grow your scrotum. Yeah. So
Yeah.
you came out of one of those.
God, we are weirdos, man. We are weird human beings, really.
But humans are really strange.
Mm.
We think of like what aliens would look like, but we look bizarre.
Yes.
Here's another thing, right? Have you ever looked at a tree?
Mm-hmm.
Like really looked at a tree and thought just like, what the fuck? Like they're so weird.
Everything essentially is weird around us. Like we're just so used to it that I guess it's kind of normal. But
Yeah.
like if you look at plants, you pull one out and you look at the roots and like, I mean, essentially, if you looked, like,
it's so alien looking.
what is an
like,
apple?
so
Like
bizarre.
it just grows out of nothing. You know?
You ever put dye in an apple?
No.
Then looked at its structure and it's like, yeah, it's like it looks like meat.
Really?
If you like dye it red, yeah, because there's like veins going through it, little bits of sinew. You know, it looks like the inside of a lung or something.
You know what I've been
it's the
doing
same
at
with
work?
oranges and stuff.
I've been eating a lot of carrots recently because I just, peel them, put them in a lock and lock and carry them to work. And in the office, I'll just be crunching on them. And then because a carrot, essentially, you've got an outer layer and an inner layer. And you can eat the outer layer and just leave the inner layer. And it looks bizarre. It tastes way different. It's way more watery. And it's got like these little spikes that go out of it. It's just it's extremely bizarre.
Yeah, I like the inside bit, the lighter coloured
Yes.
bit. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah. But all root vegetables have something similar, right? Even beetroot.
Mm.
Yeah, beets.
Beets are delicious.
Oh, the pickled beets, beetroot. Like, oh my goodness. Yeah, insane. I'm starving.
Listen, before we wrap it up, I love doing this where I allow the person I'm having a conversation with to actually ask me a question and leave it completely open. Anything you'd like to sort of prove me in.
If you weren't so passionate about cycling,
Mm-hmm.
where would your passion lie?
That's actually a really good and a really timely question because I think cycling was the addiction that replaced gaming for me. And now I think since the start of the year, I'm in this process where cycling addiction is slowly being replaced by business, maybe a hustle mentality, maybe this idea of wanting to put it. Obviously, I want to go back into content creation. Like with this podcast, it's the first thing to force me into actually doing something regularly. Okay, the 52 weeks were sort of a promise for it as well. But looking back at it, all the things that have happened in my life were connected to. Usually there was some type of breakup that happened. And then in the fallout, I found something that was a scapegoat. And the first time that was War Thunder. And then that picked off. And then it was cycling. And that picked off. And now I see this opportunity to do a switch once more, which can only benefit me if I go head first into it. So that's what I'm doing. So cycling is slowly departing. It's still something I'm going to do. It's something I want to have as a freedom. Same way I'm still going to go, play video games once in a while just to relax. But it's not the thing that I want to go and spend the majority of my time with. I feel like I want to, I'm that age now, 26, where by the time I'm 30, I want to have some solid foundations built out. And I feel a little bit.
You're going to have.
Like there's no option, to be honest. Like you put your scrotum on the table now and work your ass off, or
exactly. You gotta feed your scrotum.
Yes.
So I can feed you back.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm excited for you.
Yeah.
I'm glad I asked that question.
It's a good question because I've been thinking about it nonstop for a little while because I feel like everything in life happens to us in this sense that, I believe the universe will provide. You give and you shall receive. And I sometimes personally, and maybe others will be able to relate to this, you spend too much time worrying about certain things because you feel like you're going to be the one to screw it up, where realistically speaking, it's not that it's not in your control, but it's better if you don't feel like everything is in your control, because you're going to humans the same way we're not made to compute our chances of being here, as a scrotum. The same mathematical, impossibility is for us to sort of figure out how everything works and how we're going to just live a perfect life and not make mistakes. And it's almost better to go into it thinking, I'm going to fail miserably, and I'm going to get excited by it, and
That's exactly how I got you go in, and if your mindset is, I'm gonna fuck this up today, like, it's okay. Yeah, it's okay. As long as you don't hurt yourself too much, you don't die or you don't kill someone else.
Yes.
All right. Yeah, it's fine. Yeah, that's how you learn. It's the best way to learn.
And obviously, it's evaluating what also happened in the past, because it's so bizarre, how quickly we can sometimes get caught up in a bad day or a bad week. But you look back and you think, look, you built the YouTube channel, you built the War Thunder player that you were, you did all these little things. Why? Like, who's to say you can't do it again in some other field? What's
easily can. I've hopped between like a dozen things, and I've done extremely well in all of them, extremely well. Like it, and everyone else can do the same. You just have to push yourself to the level that you want it to be at. Some people don't get to that stage because they don't want to, right? And that's okay. Like, it's fine. I could be pumping out a War Thunder video every single day, even if I didn't feel like it. But I have the luxury of like deciding of when I want to do it, and that's important. Yeah. Yes.
Absolutely. And there's also stuff that you have to cut out from your life. Like in your case, it was sugar. I think that's a problem for so many people out there.
Everyone, yeah. I would highly recommend doing it, but being prepared. Stock up your cupboards absolutely jam-packed full of peanuts. I didn't like peanuts before. They taste rubbish, but now since I've stopped eating sugar, they're extremely tasty. And blueberries. That's your two things that you need. Yeah. Don't go at it without being prepared with snacks, because you're gonna need them.
Yeah, but I mean, the journey at the end of it is worth it, right? Took you, what you said, 4 weeks?
No, the 4 weeks was pain.
That was just
But the addiction was still there for a couple of months for sure. Yeah, I think on the scale of things, coming off sugar is right below heroin. So there you go.
Wasn't there some? I thought it was a clip from a podcast probably where somebody said, like, when you shoot heroin, it only lights up a certain part of your brain. When you take sugar, it lights up the whole fucking brain.
Yeah, it makes you itchy and stuff as well. Yeah, it's nuts. I've done it. Like, I'll eat like a wafer biscuit or something. Something that doesn't have a lot of like dense sugar. If I'm needing energy, say I'm going on a long drive somewhere, right? Then it's, I guess, fine. I'm not getting addicted because I'm not eating a whole packet, right? But I'm well aware it's still bad for me, because my body lets me know that it's bad for me a couple hours later. But when you're eating it all the time, like, you don't get that horrible come down, feeling like you feel misery after you eat sugar when you've been off it for a long time. Like, it hits you harder. For sure, but you don't realize it if you keep doing it. Before you know it, you're just in a spiral of eating sugar. Yeah, and there's things you can't eat, like McDonald's and stuff. Like certain breads. Yeah, it's crazy.
And also, you probably won't notice the actual consequences until you're way older, right?
Yeah, like your teeth and stuff, like just everything. Your teeth, your joints, your organs. Like your arteries, these are all things that would keep you alive, right? Your brain. I used to get migraines. Like, I got migraines so bad I tried to kill myself. I stopped eating sugar. Where's the migraines? No more.
I think it's crazy how many things we can eat with how many things we can fix with a proper diet. Not just physical, but also mental issues can be like cured by just getting into a state of proper nutrition. Because I mean,
Yep.
you're that's what you're putting in. Like I mentioned before, I said, what you give to the universe will give back. What you give to your body will give back. So if you keep feeding
Yeah,
it
exactly.
shit,
Yeah.
yeah,
Stop eating McDonald's, you fat cunt. It's bad for you. It's not even good. It doesn't even taste good.
it doesn't.
There's a burger place that's like probably a couple of miles down the road who get proper beef and bread that hasn't got sugar in it and good cheese and sauce that doesn't have sugar in it and it costs the same as a McDonald's does now.
Yes.
Go there, for God's sake. Then you won't need to eat 3 of them to feel full. You just need the one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there you go.
And on that
Life
bombshell,
advice.
yeah, dude, that was a wonderful conversation.
It was.
We really rotated quite a lot of different topics, which I enjoy, and I'm for sure gonna have
Based
you.
around scrotum.
Yes, everything in life revolves around the scrotum. That is, it's true. Think about it, it's true. Oh. It was wonderful, man.
Oh my God. Yeah, I'm starving now.
Oh, me too. But I'm always starving, so that's also part of the.
Oh, food's so good.
It is. It is.
Always.
I never got people that can't eat. Like,
Dude, my friends from school and stuff, they're like chicken nuggets, sausage rolls, beans. I'm like, what are you doing? Like how is that how is it satiating anything?
yeah.
It's so weird. And it's disgusting.
I mean, thinking about it now, we do eat a lot of shit. That we
We
like
do
don't
about
eat.
that.
Because I was, what was fucking me up? Because I was thinking about, I was reading Marcus Aurelius, and I was thinking all these Greek sculptures of Hercules, all these guys. Like, they're the ideal male body with that tiny scrotum, but their bodies, they didn't have access to a 24/7 gym. They didn't have protein powder. They didn't have, supplement workouts.
Yeah.
Like, and if they
But
they
they
look
had
like
a
that.
hard life.
Yeah.
They had a hard life. That's what caused that, yeah. Yeah, they had to go get their water, carry it back every day, multiple times a day, right? They're out looking for their food. They had to go chop their wood down to go keep themselves warm. Over the winter, they must have been absolute tanks,
Yeah.
like just to keep heat in their body. Yeah. Don't have that now. And
No.
that's fine, but you still have to be fit to a degree where your body isn't struggling, high cholesterol and all that shit.
Yes.
Yeah, heaven forbid we need to go out and chop our own wood down and go a clean water source every single day. Imagine. Yeah. We have a society, so you don't need to do that. Yeah.
We're so spoiled in some ways. I mean, if you think about our biggest problems are just so unbelievably unimportant.
Yeah, it's like, man, imagine the sewage system just stopped overnight.
And that shit from the morning comes back up.
Yeah. It would be over. Where does all that shit go? Yeah, nuts.
No, it's crazy. I wonder what people that lived in the past that made all of this possible for us, how they would react if they heard what we're complaining about. Like most of our problems, they'd be like, "Bitch, I barely lived from one day to the next." Like.
So I had a friend Bertie who served in World War II. He was a paratrooper who then got put on a glider, and he was one of the guys that took Pegasus Bridge. And I was at One Piece, which is a military show in Kent.
Mm-hmm.
He's since passed away. He was in his 90s, but there was, I can't remember exactly what was going on, but this big fat dude, like English Cockney boy was saying, "Oh, like this," pointed at Berry and says, "This guy fought in World War II for, you know, um, and you're disgracing him." And he says, "No, I fought in World War II, so they could be free to do whatever they wanted."
Mm.
And I just thought, "Oh wow,
Wow.
I didn't think of it that way. Like,
Wow.
it didn't want people to have to do horrible shit anymore,
Yeah.
right?" Yeah, yeah.
Shit.
So that is pretty hard. Quite a few of us actually. Like, oh man.
I mean, it's
Yeah,
incredible that after all that, you have such a positive outlook of the world.
yeah,
You know, such a neutral ground to stand on. When most of us
didn't
would perceive it
I,
as sort of like, if I had to go through that, I would be the most miserable, hating son of a bitch.
yeah. I remember what it was now. It was some guy who was like dressed quite femininely, and they were talking about why they didn't want to join the army or something,
Mm-hmm.
or the air force, and somebody got quite uptight about it, and then this big guy, outspoken, said, "Oh, like this guy fought World War II, so you should have to do something similar, to feel as to be as manly." And Bertie was just dead against that idea. Like, I fought in World War II so he could do whatever he wanted. Yeah.
Because I think there's a perception of this, manliness has to be aggressive and killing and muscular, and when I think more is just like a mindset of a man being able to take responsibility. And in terms of War Thunder, for me, that's always been like, or everything I do today in life, I try to always say, and this sounds weird, but it's my fault. Like, everything is my fault.
Yeah.
And then
most things you can control. 90% of things you can control.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because I feel like going from that enables you to be a little bit less of just a dick. Be more of a scrotum, be less of a dick, Because scrotum is just there in the background, silently minding his own business. The dick's always like just in your face, doing random shit. So I think we all have to be a little bit more like a pair of a scrotum than a dick.
Yeah, be the scrum. Tuck yourself away. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh.